Ohio State and Wisconsin are in two different places, but this has the potential to be an intriguing game. We should learn quite a bit about both teams. I think when you're looking at where Ohio State is versus where Wisconsin is, there's definitely a sizable gap between the two. Ohio State obviously has some struggles of their own to figure out, but Wisconsin is obviously going through an identity change with Luke Fickell running the show. There have been some bumps in the road for sure, and now they bring in a new quarterback that can make things either better or maybe prolong the success into next year. But this is a team that is competing for the Big Ten West in terms of getting to the Big Ten championship, and they may face Ohio State once again, regardless of how this game goes. But they are looking to make a statement, and facing a team like Ohio State presents plenty of challenges. The Buckeyes are one of the best teams in college football, and they have some good wins under their belt now. And when you look at the guys that Wisconsin has to defend, Marvin Harrison Jr. obviously is the one that stands out. We could talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. all day, every day. He's that special. He's really fun to watch, very smooth in terms of operating as a wide receiver, running his routes, releasing, you name it. He is a talented player that deserves a lot of love, and you can see why teams stress about having to slow him down. When you look at the defense, though, that's really what stood out to me because this offense has not been as good as it should be. And the offense has definitely taken a step back from last year, but the defense has stepped up. We've seen this group be really disruptive, and that's helped a ton when it comes to facing certain teams. You look what they did against Penn State last week. The defense was the reason they won that game. And Marvin Harrison Jr. obviously deserves recognition for what he did, but it was the defense as a whole that made sure Ohio State would win that game. It was obviously still a close game, but the defense did its part to keep Penn State in check for nearly the entire game. The only time that Penn State moved the ball was the last drive of the game for them. So you're looking at a defense that knows what it's doing. They have taken a step forward under Jim Knowles, and that could be a big difference between them getting to the college football playoff and missing. Because in the past, you probably would have seen an Ohio State team that relied on an offense to win games. And then when the offense struggled, you didn't see the defense step up. You're kind of seeing that with USC this year, but Ohio State, despite their struggles offensively at times, their defense has made sure that they're in a good position to win. Now, when you're facing a team like Wisconsin, Ohio State should win this game. I don't think that anybody's really questioning the ability of Ohio State to win, but also you've seen that team kind of struggle at times. And when you look at the health concerns too, there's certain players that are missing that could have an impact. Eventually, maybe that depth it gets a little bit thin and you have some concerns. I don't know how close this game will actually be, but I know that Wisconsin looks different and Ohio State gets their first glimpse at this new look, this new era of Wisconsin football. Braylon Allen is definitely someone they'll still keep an eye on. They will definitely key on him, and they will try to load the box to slow him down as much as they can. But in Phil Longo's system, you can only do that so much. You can only put so many guys, so many resources in the box before Wisconsin will be able to throw the ball to the sidelines or throw it deep. And obviously, the passing attack needs a little bit of work, especially with a new quarterback coming into play, but this offense appears to be more balanced than it was in the past. And they're hoping that continues and they become more explosive for the next couple of years. And maybe they get to a point where they can compete for Big Ten championships because right now it's pretty much a conference up to Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. Nobody else is really close. Nobody else is challenging these teams on a consistent basis. So this is an opportunity for Wisconsin to showcase what they can do. And Luke Fickell, I think, is going to do a great job of getting this program where it needs to be. But for the most part, it's still a program that has some work to do. And facing a team like Ohio State will kind of show us that gap. At least that's what we think. And when you compare the two teams together. Wisconsin obviously has the inferior talent, but that doesn't mean that they can't compete. And I think that there's certain matchups. I mean, covering Marvin Harrison Jr. is a matchup in itself that will dictate this outcome. If Wisconsin doesn't have an opportunity to slow him down or it doesn't have a plan to slow him down, it's going to be a long day. It doesn't matter who's throwing him the football. Ohio State will find a ways to get him the football and get him the ball in his hands to make plays. And then when we talked about the rushing attack and what it can do for Wisconsin, Braylon Allen is still very much a key piece in this offense. His ability to run the football and be explosive could help this team tremendously because when you've looked in the past when Wisconsin's played Ohio State, and Braylon Allen has done a good job of making sure that he's good against loaded boxes, and Wisconsin as a whole against Ohio State has done a good job of doing that as well. Now you kind of open up the field. You cannot allocate so many resources to that box. You cannot get too close to the line of scrimmage because they have different ways to spread the ball out. I still think that there are some things that Ohio State can do to kind of negate any of the spacing issues. Braylon Allen is definitely a beast to take down. It doesn't matter how many guys you have available to tackle him, he is still a monster. And you're looking at a unit running the football at you, an absolute beast. Good luck tackling him because that's going to be a full-time job on Saturday, and it's not going to be fun. And there will be plenty of Ohio State defenders that wake up sore because of it. And honestly, that's the one aspect that scares me for Ohio State is Braylon Allen and that rushing attack. And it's for good reason. When you look at what Braylon Allen means to this program, it's easy to see his impact and easy to see why teams are so worried about him. The X factor, obviously, for Wisconsin has to be the passing game. And on both sides, you're talking about an offense that is still looking to find some reliable receivers and some guys that can consistently be wide receiver one or wide receiver two. Now, on the flip side, Ohio State's also looking for a wide receiver two to step up. If Emeka Egbuka can't go the rest of the season, you're looking for someone to step up and play that role. Is it Carnell Tate? Is it going to be tight end Cade Stover? There are plenty of options for them, but somebody has to take that role. Somebody has to become that second option. And then obviously Wisconsin has to find a way to defend it. It doesn't matter if they don't have wide receiver two. There's too much talent on this field to just take them lightly. And obviously they don't, especially now with Marvin Harrison Jr. on the field. But a healthy Ohio State team terrifies you, but even a team that struggles keeping guys on the field remains one of the more scary teams because of the talent that they have. The raw talent is still good enough to beat Wisconsin. And when you look at what Wisconsin needs to do, they need to slow down this offense and they essentially need to find their own offense and their own explosiveness. And when you're bringing in a guy like Braden Locke, who's coming into essentially his first big test of his collegiate career, obviously the game against Illinois was his first, I think, true. Well, you can put the Iowa game too. He has two games so far under his belt, but Ohio State is a different animal. Finding ways to spread the ball around the field, make smart decisions, get your guys involved will be a huge key. But I think that it's going to be tough against this defense, against Ohio State's defense that has obviously taken a step forward. Like we talked about, that is a group that's playing really well. And you have to find ways to not turn the ball over, but also find ways to move the chains. You can't just simply dink and dunk your way down the field. Ohio State will turn the ball over. They will get you in three and outs, and you're going to get the ball back to that offense. And that offense does not need any more opportunities to move the football. Kyle McCord definitely still has something to prove too. Less obviously than Locke does, but he still has to prove that he can lead this team to a national championship. I think that if you're looking at Ohio State in terms of a national championship contender, I don't know if you can say that you're confident in what McCord can do, especially if there's questions about the depth at wide receiver or just the who's going to be the second guy, because everybody has a plan for Marvin Harrison Jr. Yes, he is going to still get his. He will still move the chain. He's going to make catches. But eventually, against the really good teams, you have to find a way to find someone else, and you have to find a way to get your quarterback to play at a higher level. This offense, the biggest thing hurting them is injuries, but the guys that are healthy also must step up. When you're picking this game, it's easy to pick Ohio State. It's pretty obvious which team is the better team, even with the injury concerns. Wisconsin is going through an identity change. They are going through a new program. Essentially, they're rebuilding something in what they hope is going to be more relevant to today's day and age of college football. But Ohio State is the better team. It doesn't matter how many injuries they have right now because this defense is good enough to shut down Wisconsin, and the offense can still struggle and they can still win this game.